Hey ghoul friends, it's me, Adrian or Ayden. Either way, you are still listening to Susto, the podcast of ooky, spooky, scary stories. Y'all, we are in the thick of spooky season. October, Halloween is right around the corner, and so is Dia de los Muertos. Just want to specify really quick, those are two separate things. But I look forward to both of those things. They're almost back to back, so yeah, really excited for that. And before I get into anything today, of course, make sure that you follow the Instagram page at Susto Podcast and the Facebook page at Susto Podcast for any and all updates on the show. If you have your own scary story that you want to share with me, you can do that by leaving a 5-star review on Apple iTunes or by sending me an email to sustopodcast@gmail.com, or you can leave your scary story on the Facebook page. So some quick updates to get through before we get to the rest of the show. I will be doing my first live appearance as Susto. I'm really excited for this. I thought this was super cool. The Borde House in Mission, Texas invited me to their spooky night at the Borde House. So it's going to be this Saturday, October 19th from 7 to 10 p.m. And I'll share a picture of their advertisement for this on the Instagram and the Facebook. So they invited me just to go and be like a guest speaker and to tell a few scary stories and answer maybe any questions that people might have and talk about the show in general. So I'm really excited for this, to share this with people face to face. I'm sure I'm going to meet and talk to a lot of people that have never heard of the show or listened to it. So I'm really excited to share this with them. So again, it's at the Borde House in Mission, Texas this Saturday, October 19th from 7 to 10. It's a $10 pre-sale or $15 at the door. They're going to have other really cool things going on there. They said they were going to have like people dressed up and like in different scary characters walking around and interacting with people. They're also going to have other storytellers, other poets from the RGV. So it's going to be really cool to see this happen. So again, I'll be sharing that Instagram. Make sure to follow that. Another update, again, if you follow all the social medias, then you've already seen this. Susto now has a Patreon page. So if you don't know what Patreon is this really cool website that allows people to donate a monthly amount to their favorite creators. So what you can do is you can go to patreon.com/SustoPodcast. Again, this is on my social media pages, and you can decide how much you want to donate to Susto each month. I'm not sure if I've said this before, but I did explain this on the posts on Instagram and Facebook that putting Susto on is not free. It's a passion project, and it's something that I do with my own resources and my own time. I do this when I'm not busy with work, when I'm not busy with school, and when I'm not trying to keep up with my social life. So yeah, like I mentioned, it's also not free. I pay a $12 monthly fee just to keep the show online, and then I pay a around $250 yearly fee for all the music and sound effects licensing. So if you didn't know, all the music and all the sound effects that you hear on the show, I pay to license those things because I wanted to do this the right way. I didn't want anything to happen to the show. I mean, obviously this isn't a huge show, but on the off chance that someone heard this and was like, hey, that doesn't belong to you. And I wanted to give people as much credit and compensation really for the work that they do. It takes time and money to create that music and those sound effects. So I wanted to give people, what they deserve. And I'm hoping that you all will be willing to donate to me a small amount once a month to keep putting on this show. So if you would like to do that, I would super appreciate it. Again, you can do that by going to patreon.com/SustoPodcast. So now we can get into the actual show. If you listen to all of that, thank you for not skipping through. I really appreciate it. But if you skip through, that is fine. That is okay. You want to get to the meat, to the protein of the content, and I can appreciate that. So before we do anything else, before we get into the stories for today's episode, we actually have a Susto submission from Mark. Mark, thank you for sending this in. And this is, it looks like there's a video here, which I'm really excited for. So it says, "Hi Ayden, this story I have for you is an encounter I had with a deity that was not of my own. It was the result of the beginning stages of me practicing candle magic. Maybe you can do a story on candle magic, altars, etc. Just a thought or whatevs. Actually, I was thinking about doing something related to altars in the future, so we'll see. You're in my head already. So here goes. A little background about me. My name is Mark, and I was born and raised in the RGV. I have always been interested in the supernatural and occult growing up and gained even more of an infatuation of the subject over the years. I moved to Houston in my early 20s, and being young and adventurous, decided to go out alone to a bar for a quick drink or six. The moment I sat at the bar, I ordered my Dos Equis and gently bumped my head to the music playing in the background. Suddenly, a woman pulled up the stool next to me and sat. The moment her arm accidentally grazed mine, I had instant chills and goosebumps, to the point where my body physically convulsed. Not crazy possessed, just intense chills, lol. Her scent, earthy, potent, almost like cloves and Florida water dipped in dragon's blood. It's funny that I can actually imagine what that smells like in my head. It says, without reason and with no hesitation, I asked her, You're a witch, aren't you? I can smell a witch a mile away. Who, me? She snickered. Yes, you. Spill the bruja gossip, girl, I responded. She then reached into her coin purse and pulled out a business card to a botanica/yerberia store on the other side of town. While I was looking up the details on my phone to search Yelp reviews, I looked up to ask if she worked there. She was gone. Gone. Nowhere to be found. Also, just really quick for someone who might not know what a botanica or yerberia is, I think I mentioned it on the show before, but it's basically like an herb store. You can get different herbs, different oils. Anyway, the next week, I went to my retail job at the Galleria Mall. That morning, while I was in the back room opening boxes to prepare to stock the shelves, I felt a presence behind me while I was bent over, and that scent, that potent smell of earthy witchiness crossed my path again. Being naturally spiritual, I asked out loud, "What do you want?" The scent disappeared and the feeling of the presence followed. That's when I reached into my pocket to grab my phone. In doing so, the business card to the herberia fell out of my pocket. I didn't even know I kept it. Did I place it in my pocket that night? Wasn't I wearing black slacks and not these blue jeans that night? WTF. Curious, I left work, typed in the address of the yerberia into my GPS, and drove. I walked inside in hopes to see that mysterious, nameless, coin purse carrying, earthy, witchy smelling woman, but had no luck. An elderly woman approached me and asked if I needed any help. I said no, but at that moment of saying no, I suddenly had an extreme urge to purchase candles. I saw one that said money drawing and another that said gossip X. I asked her to wrap them up for me. She asked me if I knew how to light them. I said, with a lighter? She rolled her eyes and grabbed a couple of thin white sheets to write my petition on them. She gave me a brief introduction on how and when to light them. I paid the elderly woman, got in my car, and headed to my apartment. While driving to my apartment, not one, but two birds flew directly in front of the hood of my car. It felt bad after hearing the loud bangs on my hood, but I kept driving. I arrived to my apartment, ran upstairs excited to light these candles to bring the money and wealth, as well as to stop people from slandering my name. I take the candle out of the brown paper bag, and my dog begins to growl. I place the candles down and begin to play with my dog, thinking he just needs attention. While holding my dog, he just won't stop staring at the candles and shaking. Still, ridiculously not thinking much of this, I light the candles with my petitions. My dog begins to bark loudly the moment I light them both. The next day, I noticed my dog wouldn't even leave his kennel, which was extremely odd. I kept calling his name and he wouldn't come out. What freaked me out the most was he kept looking behind me, almost as if something was standing behind me, and that's why he wouldn't come out of his kennel. Paranoid, I grabbed my sage and holy water and began smudging and praying around my apartment. While doing so, the blinds on my windows began to move. The shower curtain begins to move, almost as if something was passing by. The next day, I decided to return to the herberia to ask questions. On my way to the herberia, I get a call from a recruiter saying I start my new corporate job the following Monday. In complete disbelief, I asked if the recruiter was serious. She said to be there at 8 a.m. and hung up. I arrived to the herberia and signaled the same elderly woman to come talk to me. I asked her, "Those candles, who is the one bringing the blessing?" She looked at me in confusion. I asked again, "Where is the intent or power coming from? A saint? A god? The devil?" She giggled. "Why? Did they work? I just want to know what the source is, good or bad." She then just walked away to help another customer and ignored my question. I leave immediately, feeling unsteady. I began researching candle magic, deities, and saints. Based off what I read, I went to a craft store and purchased plain white candles, went home and made myself a protection candle using my own herbs, my own oils, and my own intent. I lit it right next to the other candles I had purchased at the yerberia. The moment I lit my protection candle, my dog ran to his kennel. Because of this, I grabbed my phone to record my candle to see if I could pick anything up on camera. I did. I replayed the video and was quickly filled with fear. I can hear a faint voice say, "Turn it off," after a few pops from the herbs I placed into the candle. I included the video for you to hear for yourself. After hearing this, I blew out the other two candles I purchased at the herberia and placed them into a paper bag, took them outside, and smashed them with a rock. This one encounter has taught me many things. It has taught me of all the intentions being placed onto objects, all the types of spirits and forces different people work with, and how easy it can be to fool the lonely drunk to give up their life to a shadow you have no knowledge of. I have learned to protect my spirit, my body, and my mind. In doing so, I now make my own candles to ensure no evil entity can ever come into my life, as well as the people I surround myself with. Do your research, and most importantly, stay protected and stay blessed, my friends. Wow, Mark, thank you so much for that. Oh, that was really, really good. Thank you for this for people that might be interested in following this path. That's a really, really good example, you know? So I'm going to watch this video now that Mark included. I'm really scared, but here we go. Let me see. Okay, I'm going to play this on my phone so that I can hold it up to the mic. think I heard it. Oh my God. Fuck, why am I alone when I do these things? Okay, I'm going to play it again. I'm going to hold it closer to the microphone. The volume on my phone is up like as much as it can be. Let's try it again. Did you all hear that? It was like a turn it off. Oh my God. So I'm kind of speechless. That is so scary. I'm obviously I'm going to put this video on the Instagram, and I honestly don't even know what to say right now. Like, I'm freaked out with this video. I'm like, oof. Also, if you all ever go to like a store or anywhere and you buy something for your altar, or you buy, just like always cleanse it. Always like redo the intent for whatever object you're about to use. Like, oh my gosh. Well, Mark, lessons learned. Thank you for sending this in. This was great. And this was perfect. This is a great letter. You all make sure that you send these letters in. Again, you can do that in a 5-star review on iTunes. You can also leave it on the Susto Podcast Facebook page, or you can email it to sustopodcast@gmail.com. So, as you've seen, today's episode is going to be about the Borde House. So, the Borde House is actually a place that I have spent a night in. We took a trip. We spent the night there. I spent the night with 2 friends, Eduardo and Erika, and that night was... I'll be telling you some stories after the whole like formal story that I have here about the Borde House. But for now, we'll get into this story. Located 1 block from the Rio Grande River, the Borde House was originally the home of Francois Laborde and served as a traveler's way station for many years. Early day guests included those traveling to Texas political events, riverboat and wagon travelers, cattle barons who sold their herds on nearby river docks, and military officers en route to California. The Borde House was designed in Paris in 1893 by French architects, and the plans were refined by San Antonio architects in 1898. Construction was complete in 1899. The Borde House became a full-service hotel in April of 1982 after restoration, and has been entered in the National Register for Historic Places. Many of the guests who have dared to stay at the hotel believe they were not alone during their stays. Some report doors slamming or walking to find someone in the room with them, extremely cold pockets of air, the sound of someone breathing nearby, heavy footsteps in the hallway or on the balcony, and the sound of children laughing when there are none in the hotel, all add to the belief that spirits of former tenants may still be living at the hotel. There are many stories told about the tunnel found at the Borde House patio. It is difficult to verify any of the tales, but there are a few we have heard repeatedly. 1. It was built shortly after the construction of the house to allow the free flow of goods and currencies being transported into the area. 2. It was utilized to support the illicit transfer of people and goods intended to be shipped throughout the South. 3. It was used during Prohibition by an Al Capone syndicate to smuggle alcohol that was shipped all over the country. A common theme among the tales that we know to be factual is that originally the Borde House tunnel extended to the banks of the Rio Grande River. We can also confirm that in 1955, the Texas Department of Transportation sealed the tunnels due to the danger it posed to the construction of U.S. Highway 83. However, there are others who believe a more sinister reason that forced officials to seal the tunnel. Gabriela and her family really needed a place to stay after days of traveling. Her father, exhausted from hours of driving, gave in when he saw a sign for the Borde Hotel up the road. Excited to stretch and move around, the family agreed to spend a night in what seemed to be a comfortable place. Soon after they checked in the early evening, Gabriela's parents fell asleep. Having slept during the car ride, she was not tired and quite bored. As quietly as she could, Gabriela left the room to explore the hotel grounds. While she walked through the hall and down the stairs, she got the sense that she and her family were the only patrons of the hotel. until she heard the sound of other kids playing outside. It had been days since Gabriela got to play with other kids. She rushed excitedly to the courtyard of the hotel to meet her new friends, but she was greeted by silence. It felt strange that there weren't even birds or bugs. Laughter broke the silence. Gabriela's new friends called out to her.
"You have to find us."
A wide smile grew on her face. She was a champion at hide and seek. Gabriela followed the sounds all the way to a corner of the courtyard. A metal spiral staircase led to the opening of a tunnel 10 feet below the foundation of the hotel. She heard another giggle and was certain she was about to win this round. She raced down the stairs, careful not to trip. She reached the entry of the tunnel and looked up to announce her victory, but stopped. The tunnel was dark and she couldn't see anyone. Gabriela called out to her new friends. The only response was a deep growl. Okay, so that one was a really quick one. I hope you liked it. But so I also have obviously personal experience with the Borde House. Like I mentioned earlier, I spent a night there and we were doing a very, very amateur, very DIY ghost hunt, I guess you could call it. Although it felt like we were the ones being hunted. So I just wanted to take also the time to tell you all about my experiences there. That's why that story wasn't so long. The tunnel, definitely, it's a really creepy tunnel. Like it's literally like there's, and I'll put pictures of this on the Instagram. You can see the staircase and it just drops down. The staircase there, actually, it's not even like mounted on anything more. It's just leaning against the wall. So if you wanted to get down there, you would have to like climb down there, which when we went, I really wanted to do, but I got like the ugliest feeling. And I was like, you know what? If something happens to me down there, I'm going to have to struggle to climb back out. And I'm not like the most physically fit person. I'm not like an American Ninja Warrior candidate. So I wasn't about to put myself in that position. That tunnel is sealed, but there's still like, you know, it's still open up to a point before it gets sealed. And it just seemed really dangerous to go in there. So I wasn't going to put myself or anybody in that position. So we opted not to enter the tunnel, but it's still there. You can take a look at it from above. And that honestly was the only view I needed of that tunnel. So another room that I wanted to tell you all about was about the Red Room. So the Red Room is one of the rooms available to rent at the Borde House. And this room, it's literally all red. You walk in and it has this really beautiful ornate red and like goldish wallpaper, and it has this big bed with one of those canopies over it. And again, the bed is red, the canopy is red, and it's just, you know, the room is red. So the story with this room when we visited is that there was what I guess they would call a familiar woman. So she was familiar to the hotel because she was a sex worker, and that's where she took her clients. So what happened is she actually got caught with one of her clients, and word got back to her father. And when word got back to her father, he disowned her. So what this poor woman did was she rented the room out for her final night, and she took her own life by hanging herself in the closet of the Red Room. So when we went to visit, we did a walkthrough during the day, and they took us into this room, and we're getting shots of the room and everything, and they're telling us, we have one of the tour guides there with us, telling us the story of everything that happened there. And they said, this is the closet, this is where it happened. And so of course we're like, well, we need to get a shot of that. So we open it and we're hit with this like smell, and they're like, this smell, like we've tried cleaning this closet, we've tried air fresheners, everything, like, but the smell doesn't go away. And people say that it's the smell of death. That's just what it is. And I remember this room giving me like a really ugly feeling. Like we were in there, like we were kind of joking around, we were getting our B-roll, and thankfully it was the daytime, because I was like, if it's like, it's gonna start coming back in here at night. So we got everything we needed from that room and we left. And I remember being the last person out of the room, because I had, you know, when you get that feeling in the pit of your stomach where you almost want to like jump and like just run. So it was that feeling, and I just like kind of like pulled the door behind me. I didn't even like check if I pulled it all the way. I just trusted that it was going to close on its own or whatever. But I didn't double check. I didn't want to look back. We kept going. So we finished the walkthrough. We went to explore the city a little bit, to do some other things. And then we came back once the sun had set. And this was our plan all along. So what actually happened is when we were doing the walkthrough, the tour guide, the person that was working at the hotel, they gave us the keys. So as they were giving us the tour, they unlocked all the rooms that we went into. And they said, these are the rooms that you have access to for the night. They're already unlocked. Here's the key so that you can use it to lock and unlock the gate when you leave and come in. Because we were the only ones staying at the hotel that night. Like, nobody who worked there was staying there. It was literally just us three that were doing the investigation. So we were like, great. Number one, it's scary because this place is supposed to be haunted. And number two, it's scary because we're responsible for taking care of it tonight. So, I mean, the property is gated. And so, like, again, that's why we had the keys to it. So, like I said, we left. We came back once the sun set. We started doing our investigation and a lot of weird things were happening. For example, one, my camera, the battery that I had just finished charging, when we started doing the walkthrough of the hotel at night, we got to do one room, which I think was like the grand room on the first floor. And we did that room and my battery died. After we left that room, my battery just died. I was like, this doesn't make sense because I just charged this thing. So we're like, you know what? Fine, whatever. We go back into the room. I put the battery to charge. And I'm like, you know what? It's going to take a long time. I don't have an extra battery for this camera. We can use my phone. We can set it up. So start using my phone. So we go back out and Erika had made a joke earlier about, do you think, you know, ghosts are upset that they don't have Wi-Fi? Or do you think that we'll be upset when we're ghosts if that we won't have Wi-Fi anymore? And like, we all just kind of laughed about it. And so when we had gone back out after figuring out our camera situation, she was checking her phone for something and she was like, you guys, I have no service. And I mean, we're in a city that we're normally not in. I know that sometimes when you visit a new place, like your phone might have trouble connecting for whatever reason, but we were there earlier and her service was completely fine. And we're like, okay, maybe something happened with like the router, like the Wi-Fi went out. So then we check our phones and we have service. We have full bars, we're connected to the internet, and her phone was just like, she couldn't even send out a text message or call. So that was really weird because she had just made that joke earlier. So we're like, maybe it's a coincidence, who knows, whatever. So we're doing the whole walkthrough and we decide, you know what, the last room we're going to do is the red room. That's the last room we'll do because that one gave us the most creeped out feeling. So it came time to do the red room. We walk up to it and the red room is on the balcony. And so I'm not sure, I'll post a picture of the front of the Borde House, but there's two rooms on the front balcony of the Borde House, meaning you have to walk outside onto the balcony to access these rooms from the rest of the hotel. We were staying on the room on the other side of the balcony from the red room. So we go to the red room and we try opening the door and it's not budging. And again, I want you to remember what I said earlier about me being the last person to leave this room and being so freaked out by it that I didn't really check to see if I had closed the door the whole way. So there's no way that I could have maybe like shut it too tight or whatever. Aside from that, when the tour guide took us into that room and out of that room, they unlocked it and they left it unlocked so that we could have access to it later in the night. And we had the key for it. And I'm not sure if you've ever seen the video. I'll see if I can post a link to the video, but you can see us like in the video, you can see us trying to open the door. And I remember we each tried like, and Eduardo, he actually like tried and like put his body against it and was trying to push the door open, and it wasn't moving until I was like, you know what? It seems like there is something in there or someone that doesn't want us to go back in there. So I don't want to upset whoever or whatever that is. I was at that point, I was like, done. We'll leave it alone. We will not go into the red room. That's fine. So we go back into our room to kind of regroup, and part of our plan was that each of us was going to go in a different room individually, like just by ourselves with the camera. We're going to go into a room and we were just going to do like our own individual mini investigation. So while we went back to the room and we're regrouping, we're checking cameras and stuff. And that was another thing, is that we had to go back to the room because one of the memory cards, all of a sudden it had no space left to film. And this was a new memory card. We had cleared it before we had started the investigation for the night. So we were like, this doesn't make sense. How is this card not working anymore? So we went back to the room, tried to clear out the card, put everything on the computer. The card wasn't even full. We plugged it into the computer. So we're like, okay, we'll put a new card in and let's go. So we were really weirded out by all these like random technical difficulties because by no means am I saying that we are like a professional camera crew, but like, you know, we know the basics of our equipment. You know, we know batteries should be charged. We know that you should clear your card space and have extra cards, but it's just weird that our batteries were charged and they died, that our cards had free space and all of a sudden they were full. So that's kind of strange to us. So as we're regrouping in the room, we were like, well, let's shoot some B-roll in here. And we were going to do we're going to try and do some funny bits. We're in there, and one of the bits was going to be that the camera was going to be on Erika, and they were going to say, oh, did you hear that? And it was going to pan to me, and I was going to have like a hot Cheeto in my mouth and be like, oh, I eat when I'm nervous, ha ha ha. So we start doing the bit, and Erika says, did you hear that? And then, well, we follow through with it. And then I try and give my line terribly. And Erika's like, no, I'm serious. Did you hear that? And I was like, this isn't part of it. And they were like, no, I'm serious. Did you hear that? So we all just get quiet. And I'm like, what do you mean? And Erika says, I heard something outside. And we looked over the footage and you can hear a thump coming from the other direction of the room, which would have been the direction of the balcony. Again, the only other room on the balcony is the red room. Granted, it's on the other side, but this is like, it's an old wooden house. You know, you can pretty much hear everything that's going on in the house. You can hear a sound from the other side of the house, especially because of how empty it was. We were the only people there. So we start hearing more and more noises. We're hearing like footsteps. We're hearing banging on the balcony. This is the part where I really wish that we had like more professional equipment, or maybe that we knew how to use our equipment better, because we could have captured those sounds that were happening. And we were so freaked out that we almost wanted to just completely call off like the rest of the investigation. We just wanted to be like, you know, we have to stay in here. Like, this is too scary. It's too creepy. We don't know what is out there. And we had kind of like a come to Jesus moment with each other, where we were like, you know, we already advertised this. We told people we were going to do this. We need to follow through in some way. So we changed our plans. We decided that we weren't going to do the bit where we go into the rooms by ourselves, because I mean, we were just too scared. We didn't want to separate from each other at that point. So we said, we'll go through the rest of the rooms that we need to go to together as a group, but we're not going to split up. You know, we'll see what happens. And that took us maybe like 45 minutes to gather the courage to decide, okay, we'll leave the room as a group and we'll go into the rest of the house, because we just kept hearing these noises on the balcony. For like transparency's sake, I do want to say that there was a bar directly across the street from where we were staying, directly across the street from our room. And so we could have easily attributed like, oh, it's just sounds from the bar bouncing off into here. But there is a very distinct difference between noise coming from across the street that sounds like the muffled sounds of people laughing and music, and the sound of banging on wood and footsteps coming from outside of your door. And that's what we were hearing. And that's what freaked us out the most, is that even if we wanted to justify these sounds as something else, we couldn't, because we could tell where the sounds were coming from. We finished the investigation for the night. I think I slept maybe like an hour at most. We woke up the next day. The person that was there to give us a tour and that had unlocked the rooms for us, they came back, and we were like, you know, we think we experienced some pretty compelling things. And, you know, we thanked them for their time and all of that. And we told them, or we asked them, did you lock the red room after we left, like earlier in the day? And they were like, well, no, I unlocked it and one of you all closed the door, but you didn't have the key at that point. I still had the key. I didn't give you the key until we were all leaving the grounds. And so we were like, okay. So we explained to them that, you know, we tried to go into the room and that the door wasn't opening, and they were like, well, we can go check. Let's go check the door. Like, maybe it was like, we were like, we don't know if like the door jams or like whatever. And they're like, well, I mean, like the place is restored, like everything is it's pretty functioning, so like the door shouldn't be jamming. So we went back upstairs, and the tour guide went, and like literally with like no resistance, no trouble whatsoever, they just opened the door. Like nothing. They just opened the door, and they're like, do you want to go in? And we're like, no, it's okay. We got what we need. We're not going to go in there. And so it was a really, really interesting night that we spent there. Honestly, I don't think that I would ever go back. I wanted to go back and do like a special episode where I return for this episode and I record the podcast on the ground and maybe do like a video, but honestly I don't think I'm there yet in terms of like having the capacity to do that. Like, this is a one-man project. I don't have a crew. I think maybe with better planning and earlier planning I can do something like that next year, but it wasn't in the cards for me this year. And like, it was a little bit of relief, because I was actually terrified at the thought of having to go back there. I was already setting all these rules, like I'm only going to record it during the day. I'm not going to go in any of the rooms. But again, maybe that's something that I can do next year if that's something that y'all would be interested in, and that if you all really want it and you all demand it enough, I would probably give into it, because I am a glutton for being scared. So I really hope that you all enjoyed this episode. The Borde House, it's a beautiful place. If you have the chance to visit, definitely visit. If you're daring enough to stay the night, I would say go for it. I'm not saying that you'll experience the same things that me and my team did, but there's a chance that you might. And it was, although it was really terrifying, it was a really thrilling experience. And that's why I do this show, because I live for that very specific thrill of kind of the unknown, but also I know what that is, but I don't know. You all know what that feeling is. And I think that's why you're listening to this show. And, that would be one way maybe to get that feeling. And yeah, I really hope you like this episode. I really enjoyed telling it. I really enjoyed retelling my experience at the Borde House. It was a lot of fun. It was really scary. Again, I will be at the Borde House this Saturday, October 19th, and I hope to see you all there. I will post details for that event on the Instagram, and make sure that you follow the Susto podcast social media pages on Instagram and Facebook. Please, 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 please share this show. Again, I would really, really, really greatly appreciate it if you all would become a patron by going to patreon.com/Susto podcast. Again, you can donate any amount per month that you want, and this would be to help fund the necessities for the show. And also it would be having that little extra money would be nice, maybe to spend on merchandise and to invest back into the quality of the show, which is something that I definitely want to keep doing. Thank you so much, and I will talk to you later. Bye.